Welcome in, everyone. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, Jon here, as I can watch Jon adjusting the Instagram live camera as he tries to put himself centered. And I am hopefully we can hear everybody okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. This worked out well last time, so we thought we'd give it another whirl.
Yes, sir.
Welcome in. Jon, how you doing, my friend? How was your weekend?
It was pretty decent. I can't complain too much. I'm trying to remember what really happened. I'm at the age, and I don't know if this is a normal thing. I bet it's not. Anybody with kids that's 4, my daughter only wants to stay home. She doesn't want to go anywhere or do anything. She's like, I'll take you to the park. No, would rather stay home. And it's kind of wild. I just keep trying to, get out and do stuff, but it's just not. She's just not doing it. So what did I do this weekend? I stayed home pretty much. I'm excited. Next weekend, I'll be live at a playoff game. Kind of excited about that. But that's it. Did you get on the referee warpath this weekend?
No referee. A slight break on the referee warpath. I spent some time with family. They were here in Richmond. So went to see a musical. Saw the musical Shocked, which was interesting. I'll say.
Is it shocking?
No. It was interesting, to say the least. Not sure I give it like 5 stars, but it was I guess decently entertaining. So, but yeah, saw that with the family. Did referee a little bit, got a couple games, but it was a lighter weekend. I'm preparing for the heavy stuff to sort of close out the year, and then be sort of done and ready to relax and put my tired legs up. But not before we got soccer to watch and soccer to talk about. So let's should we just get right into it? Or
why don't we?
You want to plug before we begin?
I don't think so. I always want to plug our Patreon. That's always great to do. Yeah. Patreon.com/RFK Refugees. We have one team left in the playoffs, so that's the team we're going to talk about. And if somehow you're listening to this show and have still avoided watching Spirit games, certainly no excuse now. Yeah. There's no other soccer for you to watch locally. This is it. So tune in.
Before we begin, and I will double check if I posted this, but I did post a article to the Patreon feed available for Patreon subscribers. I did not promote it as I should have.
That's probably not what you want to do.
Yeah, well, it's not one of those
the hard
ones.
part.
Maybe I was the hard part. Maybe I was waiting for the podcast. But yes, you can go if you are a Patreon subscriber. I think Patreon people get the emails and everything, but it's sort of expanding on my thoughts of the upcoming DC United offseason, sort of the challenges, what sort of lays ahead for Ali Mackay and the different directions that can go. So if you want kind of a catch up of sort of where things are, it's a little more expansive than our sort of podcast review. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about the options in front and different sort of roster building stuff, all the nerdy stuff we'll get into this season. So definitely check it out. Patreon.com/RFK if you want to join, and I will promote it on our, probably on our actual social medias. Like
That's a good idea.
Should have.
I think the problem, I won't say too much about it. If you're on live, you can see my shirt. But I think if you're watching on Instagram Live, you're likely getting a lot of live notifications for politicians doing last minute rallies. So we have a lot of competition tonight on this Monday night. But it's all to be over soon. Producer Brian and I were just talking about how I can't watch. I was trying to watch highlights before the thing, and everywhere you go, it's a political advertisement, even on like the smallest broadcast concept you could find. They forgot a way to put an ad on it. So it's almost over, folks. No more ads. The ads are going to finally take a break.
It is indeed almost over. Tomorrow is the day everybody tells me is the last day. So, yeah. Let's get into some happier stuff though, than the impending election that is happening in this country. Let's get into some happier stuff. Let's talk about Washington Spirit. 1-0 victors over the North Carolina Courage, locking up the number 2 seed in the league. Not in the. I was almost said like, in the Eastern Conference, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no conferences in NWSL. It's all one.
Nope.
For now, I think that I expect that to change here. I don't know, maybe not this year, next year, but certainly at some point down the road. But it is just the league. They locked up second place, which is important. They weren't able to really chase Orlando for the Shield. The injuries sort of kind of did them in. So the next best thing was to clinch that number 2 seed. That gives you basically home field advantage throughout the playoffs. This was sort of, one thing we looked at as maybe something that could slip away as the team suffered injuries. But I mean, for all credit, they got it done, right? There's no other real things to break down. No other. They're gonna be guaranteed to make that championship game and play Orlando, right? That's how that works.
I think so. It's all, they don't even have to play the games now. I think it's kind of, they just show up. I think if you look at this matchup ahead of time, the Courage has always given the Spirit a really tough game. I think the stat was the Courage were unbeaten in 21 consecutive home games, and the last time they lost was against the Spirit in 2023. So this was not a given, certainly. Also with the injuries that the Spirit have faced, but I think a couple things benefited them. North Carolina had rotated a little bit based on the fact that they had played. When's the last time they had played? Was they had played in the midweek, right?
I believe so. Yeah, they played on the. Looks like they played. What am I seeing? October 19th is when they played. So they actually had a little bit of a break.
Oh well, then they just decided to rotate. They thought maybe they could get away with not playing their top choice midfield.
Well, everybody was pretty much rotating, or everybody was, of course, had the international break. I think Ashley Sanchez played a pretty significant role in that. There were 3 games too that the U.S. women's national team played. 2 against Iceland.
What did Hal do? But I think Hal and Casey they took them right off the field for the United States and threw them right in the game. So
if I recall, I think Hal literally made her first cap against Argentina, so she played one of the 3 games. So I think there might have been a little more involvement from some of the others, and I have to look. I think pretty much North Carolina were kind of locked into that 5th spot. Their closest competitor was Casey Curran on 55 points. The Portland Thorns were on 34 points, which I think they played the day before. So basically, this game meant nothing to them. They could win, lose. They would be literally in the same spot as far as the playoffs are concerned. So that probably played more of a factor where the Spirit actually had something to gain from this game, which was second place, which is clinching that home field advantage. So probably played a role in the decision-making amongst the lineup. But obviously, lineup going out: McKenna Morris, Courtney Brown, Trinity Rodman, Ashley Hatch up top, Hal Hirschfeld, Heather Steinbrook in the midfield, Casey Kruger, Battelle, Mickione, and Carl on the back line. So, considering injuries, considering, players they still have coming back from injury, Lacey Santos, of course, making an appearance off the bench. This was pretty much a first choice lineup for the team.
Battelle is a rotational. I think they're still trying to sort out between Morgan and Battelle what that center back situation looks like. And I think it was, if you watch the post-game press conference with Kingsbury and how I think Aubrey said, if you had told me in the last game of the season we were playing an all-rookie midfield, I would not have assumed we were playing for the second seed, which fair enough. I don't think anybody would have thought that, but this is a lot. This is to your point. Aside from Lacey Santos, this might be it. It's looking more and more like Saar is not going to factor at all. She's not making the bench. Mm-hmm. She's not getting better. Lucky. I mean, we talked about it pretty extensively. That what were we going to do with Ashley Hatch? Because Ashley Hatch was a square peg in a round hole at the beginning of the year. She wasn't starting. She was playing wing. She was playing in the midfield. And nothing looked right. She wasn't productive. And we said, you can either trade her and get some value, or you can hold on to her in case there's an injury. And I'm sure that she'll come good by the end of the year. And then that came to pass, very much so. So it looks like the Spirit are extremely lucky that they had a player like Hatch in the chamber, basically, just to be able to unload. Because without her, she scored 5 in her last 6. This team would be double sunk. They're already sort of there's holes in the boat, but they're still moving along. If they had no Hatch, they'd be at the bottom of the ocean.
Well, let's talk about talk about where we think this team stands this year. It's obviously a reduced lineup. I think they're getting some players back healthy. So I think that in and of itself is a good thing. I think having Lacey Santos out there, improves the squad. First half of this game, obviously, we talk about North Carolina playing a rotational lineup, but I think when I look at who needed to step up, especially after the injury to Andy Sullivan, I talked about it. I said it has to be Hal Hirschfeld. She has to start playing the way that she played sort of in the beginning of the year that got her in the national team, and then she kind of leveled off a little bit. This was a performance I thought today the last game, I should say, where she looked like this looks like a replacement. She was breaking up passes. They were playing that mid press very effectively against North Carolina. I found it kind of funny. I knew what the score line was, and I found it kind of funny. The color commentator was talking about all the possession North Carolina had, and like, oh, they're in control of this game. And I said, I disagree with you very much. I feel like the Spirit are sort of allowing North Carolina to have the ball. They're allowing them to sort of, try to play through them, and sort of using that mid press between Steinbrook and Hirschfeld to kind of like just gobble things up, and then they're going to hit you on the break. They played very direct in this game, much more direct than I think we've seen them play. They're certainly more direct than if they had a Lacey Santos, if they had, the full healthy lineup. But I mean, it was marginally effective on the road against not a great team, but certainly not a bad team in the North Carolina Courage. They looked fairly comfortable, at least in that first half. Second half, they, brought on the big guns, but even then, a couple breakdowns, but I really don't think North Carolina really looked like they were really, back into this game. And the Spirit still had their chances in a couple of scenarios. So I
think North Carolina having no shots at half, I think is the key indicator there. They only had one shot on goal the whole match. The Spirit were, they had a few opportunities on the break. They probably should have finished. Mm-hmm. But I think overall the idea was, what for a team with nothing to lose, they were not going to be going all out attack. Like you said before, they didn't have their attacking guns in the field, and they also were not set up necessarily to be. You said they were playing direct. They just were not. They were not dangerous. They were not throwing a whole bunch of bodies forward. So, they took what they were given. The goal scored by Ashley Hatch is, obviously you put a star next to that one. that was a pretty great goal, and it was started with Hal Hirschfeld winning the ball in midfield. So to your point, what was this team going to be after Andy Sullivan's injury? It was all going to be about Hal, but also I think we need to talk about Courtney Brown and Heather Steinbrook, two players that if you talked about them at the beginning of the year, it was a question of like, could we loan these players out? What is the goal with these two players in mind? They're not getting minutes. They're getting, they play in the friendlies, they played in the Challenge Cup, but they were not figuring they would, Courtney Brown would feature for 5 or 10 minutes in a game. I think Heather had her first appearance maybe last month, maybe in August or September. It was late. I think it's just that's something to watch, right? Like I think that these players are being thrown into the fire and they're not looking incredibly out of place, and they're able to, you have these playmakers in the field, players that can score outside the 18, that can do things that other players can't do, with Ashley Hatch and Trinity Rodman. Lacey Santos, as she comes back from injury, I don't think she's there yet. I think that would be fairly obvious. She's not quite firing on all cylinders yet in the second half. But you've got those players that are able to create, that does not put as much pressure on those on that midfield three to do anything other than move the ball, shuttle the ball between the lines, and not give up too much pressure on the back line. So I think that's important going through this playoffs. They've got they were already talking about, Aubrey was basically like, yeah, we're going to sell out these next two games. I like the mindset of just sort of almost looking past. They're like, hey, we should win this next game against Bay FC, mm-hmm. and then we should, as we look at the way this team lines up, as the playoff structure lines up, it's looking good for us. So we just gotta perform like we know we can. Bay FC, the club they're going to play, they have beaten them twice this season, including 3-0 on the road, and then they also beat them in the home opener. So to Aubrey's point, they should be able to come out and do this, even missing some of those players through injury.
Yeah, and it's I will state, I hope they're not looking too far past, because just ask Columbus, the Columbus Crew, and the MLS playoffs, how that's working out for them, and some other sides, including Inter Miami, which are suffering a scare right now in the playoffs. So you can go.
When do they play? When's their third game? Is it Friday?
I think it's Friday. Yeah. It's Friday or Saturday. There's like this week. So, and then we get the international break. So long break.
I want to talk about the playoffs. I want to talk about the playoffs a little bit after we finish the Spirit talk.
Yeah, for sure. But it was, I think they should win this game. They should come in. I'm very curious to see, how much will we see Lacey Santos maybe factor a little bit more into this game? I think she was a player I looked at and I said, okay, now she's the one, when Corey Bethune goes down, it's like, okay, now this is where you need Lacey Santos to step in. She was actually brought in. I mean, the beginning of the season, we were all thinking she arrives mid-season. She's going to be that creator. She's going to be that player that's going to, be supplying, the ball to Sarr, to Hatch, or Rodman for the finish. You're going to have Rodman for the more direct play, the quick play, the more, she's going to, penetrate the box. She's not going to she'll create. She'll do a lot of great things sort of on the run that a lot of other players just can't do. But, Lacey Santos is going to be, sees that pass that no one else sees. So it's been a little bit, the injuries I think has hurt things, but, I feel like maybe she was getting to a point where she was being a regular contributor and the injury kind of took her off. And so I'll be curious to see what her fitness level is. I think the fact that she's making the lineup, maybe not this game, but maybe she can, go a little bit longer next week. And then maybe she features in the starting lineup for this game.
How lucky are the Spirit that McKenna Morris has turned into the player that she has this season? If you think about the two match suspension for Rose Kouassi coming into the playoffs could have been a real big problem, and now you're like, that's actually a position we have some depth at.
Yeah,
and you did not think that would be true after the losses that we've accrued so far. So, man, Mark Krikorian, if I don't know if NWSL does an Executive of the Year, they probably should. He's got to win it. He has to win it.
Yeah.
If there's no way that he couldn't. If you look at the draft class and how they performed and how integral they've been to the team's success.
Yeah, and also full credit to Adrian Gonzalez for what he's done with this roster. And I don't think he's up for Coach of the Year because he arrived mid-season. So.
Yeah. Jonah Heraldez, you're saying Adrian Gonzalez giving they both deserve credit.
Yeah,
it is a team function. They Adrian took the ball to the 50 and now Jonah's running the ball the rest of the way. They if they do Coach of the Year, they could share it.
Yeah, I totally Freudian slip there. Apologies. Probably is Jonah. But Jonah coming in mid-season, taking the team, and I think had the tougher job, which was, all the injuries they suffered. You had, by the way, it's official. Corey Bethune is the assist king of the NWSL, despite not playing since late August. Still managed to have more assists than anybody else. So to lose a player like that and to still, hold on and take the number 2 seed, and even arriving mid-season as well is tough to kind of, you immediately get off winning everything you could possibly win with, Barcelona in Spain to then come into a new roster. Yeah. Adrian did a really good job kind of laying the groundwork. I think he had a lot of stuff cooking, but it takes some time to acclimate a little bit. And I think he jumped in and, to have the team where it is right now, I think is a testament to him considering all the injuries. I mean, there are a lot of NWSL teams that might have completely fallen by the wayside. And so he's managed to kind of keep the ship on course. They haven't played, the most beautiful soccer I think we saw in the summer. But I think they're playing pretty effective soccer. And also want to shout out, I thought Trinity Rodman again was still excellently dynamic in this game. I also thought Casey Kruger as well was really effective. I found it interesting. It seemed to the first half they were kind of playing Trinity Rodman sort of out on the left, and then they kind of switched her up, and I think they found more space and she was a little bit more effective. So something to watch. She's, plays more on the left side most of the time, but she's not afraid to switch to the right. And I think, you'll see that, you'll see that switch probably from the coaching staff come in some games when it doesn't feel like it's really developing. They'll switch it up and try to pressure other avenues. So
we didn't mention that there were 2 goals in the second half marked off for offside. So it could have been a completely different match than it was. The stats say that the Courage were ineffectual and they had no shots in the first half, but it could have been a different match in the second half. They were able to hold on. I think that the celebration on the sideline for the Spirit told you that they knew this was going to be a tough one, even regardless of how the lineup was set up. So, it's hard. I think it's a good tune-up on the road, or a good tune-up for the playoffs to win like this when you're not sort of firing on all offensive cylinders, and in a place that is like a snake pit for visiting teams. So I think that's the best. That was the best game you could have asked for, best opponent you could have asked for going into the playoffs, based on what the roster was looking like. And
despite the rough stuff, they've won 4 of their last 5. So they're cruising right into that playoffs. The Pride have, of course, they locked up the the supporter shield. So, or the I guess what is it called? It's not the supporter shield that they call the NWSL. What do they call the trophy for the winner? I forget.
I don't know.
We'll look that up. It's like the players shield. It's some form of shield, but I don't think it's called the supporter shield like it is in MLS. But that's a team that Jazz dropped too. But so you look at the momentum. I think it's important to get that number 2 seed. You get that home game for that semifinal, assuming you win in the quarterfinal. Then the championship is a complete is a complete crapshoot anyway, because it's going to be in a I believe a KC Current in Kansas City.
Correct.
So, KC Current Stadium. And you never know what will happen kind of in these games. We look at this and, I think we said we don't think this team with the injuries, if they were completely healthy, I think they would have been a good title contender. With the injuries, maybe it's a little bit less sure, but it's the playoffs. It's one game situations. Anything can happen. So when they won the trophy in 2021, I don't think we were here saying that they were going to win it, and they managed to pull it off. So
I think they're in a lot better spot than they would be if they were playing an MLS with a 3-game series against not necessarily against Bay, but as they get further down the line, like you said, anything can happen, and it probably will. But this is, I think I'll be there in person on Sunday. I think this is a matchup that they should win. Mm-hmm. Oshawa is a dangerous player who scored 7 goals this year. Rachel Kundananji is another very dangerous player. It's not like this team has not earned its way into the playoffs. They had to win their way in, including beating Courage prior to their victory against the Dash to get them in finally. But this is a team that can score goals. It's the Spirit, while being, I think, the more talented roster, have to execute. And I think, I would say we could make a prediction. I would say that it's likely. But what am I going to say? What do I want to say the score is in a playoff match at home against a first-year club in Bay FC? I'm going to say 2-1 Spirit advance.
You stole my line. Yeah, I was going to say 2-1 too.
Well, we can both say 2-1. 2-1. We could both be right.
Game winning goal from. I think this is where Trinity Rodman finally starts to put on the score sheet. She's so effective when you watch her out of there on the field. I mean, 6 assists, 8 goals this year is certainly nothing to sniff at, even with the Olympic break. But I think, to your credit, I feel like some of the stuff you see, she's so good, and you don't see it a lot sort of on the score sheet. It's a lot of what she's doing outside of that to sort of, either suck up attention or create other opportunities for other players. And I think this is where maybe you see her, the playoff form emerge. And, you look at who has probably the best player heading into the playoffs. It's, Trinity Rodman. The Pride, of course, are also very, very talented as well. They're more of a collective. This is, sometimes playoffs are won by players that are better, and players who are elite, and they can sort of take over a game. So that's usually what defines a playoff. That's anytime you watch games, it's always like there's one player who kind of says, nope, we're going to win this. And, for their credit, the Spirit, last time the Spirit had that was 2021, and they managed to just say, nope, we don't care. We're going to go in, we're going to win this amongst everything else. So it'll be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. Anything else we want to break down? Anything else we want to preview? What are your thoughts on the lineup? Do you think we'll see this same lineup heading into the game, or do you think there'll be any changes?
I think you will see the exact same lineup. I think Boutel played really well against. I'm trying to remember what game it was where she took. I think it was the Kansas City Current game. I'm trying to remember the last time they might have played them, but it was sort of Temwa Chawinga getting. She scored a goal, but still sort of put in the back pocket due to Boutel's play. So I think Oshawa being another player that maybe they look to see that, although she's a lot faster. They're both very fast. I'm just trying. That's the only position on the field that I could see might be one you might move around.
Presuming Lacey Santos isn't like healthy and ready to go. I
don't think she'll start. I think Morris. Yeah. I think Morris has kind of earned her spot at the moment and can play more minutes. So I think you probably just roll with what you got. I would say personally. What about you? You agree?
Yeah, I'll agree. I think, Esme Morgan, I think could potentially make a start. But again, I thought both Boutel and Mickey Owen were excellent in this game, and kind of keeping really the whole defensive line, I thought, really handled the track back really well. And I think that's going to be an important thing against a literally one woman show for the Bay FC and who they have in attack. They're going to, Oshala is going to be the one that's going to generate the chances and try to score the goal. She is the most dangerous player for that team. And you need to be able to track back and sort of keep her, from scoring and from getting dangerous chances. And the Spirit did that the past couple times. I feel like she was really almost a non-factor. I'm not even sure. I think she might have gotten a goal, but
she did.
In one of the games, but
not I think in the home opener she did.
Yeah.
Other thing I want to make sure I call out is that Tara McKeown played every single minute. Iron Woman. The mission to recreate the Sam Staub begins now. She's got 1 year in, and hilariously, Kingsbury would have had it, but she had a red card in the first game in the last minute of the game, but it got rescinded. So, so almost. That's the only other sort of note that sort of puts a bow tie on the season.
Yeah. All right, that'll be fun. Again, the Spirit will play at Audi Field if you want to go check it out. Definitely.
Good luck. I think it's sold out. So watch it on TV.
Watch it on TV, I guess. Sorry, I didn't see that it was sold out. So yeah, sold out. But definitely, playoffs are fun.
It says you can get tickets. I don't know. They said earlier that it was sold out.
There might be some resale. There might be some resale tickets.
Look around if you want to come.
Yeah, look it out. Sunday, November 10th at 12:30 p.m. I believe the game. What's the TV and streaming for this game? It looks like it says ABC. It says ABC is what I'm seeing here on Google. So it looks like it's either ESPN or ABC, which was.
I put out so bad intel. Plenty of good seats available. Please buy tickets. I don't know where I heard that, but there are plenty of seats.
Well, yes, but they will play Bay FC, and the game will be on ABC. So. Over the air TV, so you really have no excuse not to watch.
They have when I say that, it's because they've opened up the upper deck, which they don't always do for these games. So that is you can get seats starting at $25 in the supporter section and then $28 for an actual seat. But it is not super available. I know my friends bought tickets earlier on, so make it out. If not, make sure you watch the game on ABC, which is wild. Good for them. And hopefully we get another win. And we're talking about the next round against hopefully not Gotham. I don't know where the bracket leads them out. Who are their potential opponents?
I don't know if they reseed, and because it's the only. I don't know if they reseed for the playoffs. I'll have to go look, but I don't know if they do or not. It's probably they got the bracket set up here, so and I can't find it. So
I don't know if they reseed. We'll find out. We'll win first.
Win first, and then we'll talk about whether reseed. It does not look like they reseed. It looks like it is just next up. So we would play either the winner of second and third, which would be Gotham or Portland. So
both of those teams have won their last 4 games.
Yeah. So yeah, and the sort of swan song of Christian Sinclair. I don't know. I like to get Portland. Let's keep the team traveling. Have to travel all the way from the western side. Also, probably the better team. So
the Gotham Portland game is the Kelly O'Hara farewell show versus the Christine Sinclair farewell show.
Yes. All right, folks. Well, we got other playoffs going on that aren't involving, unfortunately, teams from DC, but we got MLS playoffs. Different format, weird format. What are your now that like we have 2 years under this format? Like, what are I have some thoughts that might differ from everybody else. Maybe we've probably talked about this, but I think we're kind of in the game 3. There's a lot of game 3s that are going on right now. Like there was one that there was not it was not as. I mean, the fact that Columbus find themselves out is a pretty amazing advertisement for the 3-game series. Mm-hmm. The tough part about MLS is that you could argue that they have delegitimized the value of the regular season, but they already did. It is illegitimate. Like it is, other than the Supporters Shield, like there are too many teams that make it, and they do not reward you enough for doing well in the season, other than seeding. The fact that you start off in that situation, that I think it's very cool that the Red Bulls did what they did, even though they are the Red Bulls. Like I feel like I think this structure is allowing for some surprising outcomes that put different markets in opportunities to move ahead. I don't know. I think it's generally good
What do you feel?
I disagree with you that doesn't reward the regular season. Like here are my thoughts on playoffs. Here are like three things I want. I want some meat to the games, and I feel like the long season that MLS plays, the playoffs when it was just single elimination, it was definitely a blink and it's over. Like we would be, I think, at MLS Cup if we played like the same string of games I guess we've played all the way through. And it's like it was always like it felt very short. It felt very much like a final sprint. I think the best of three does kind of slow it down just a little bit and gives you a chance to actually like savor some of these matchups. I think there were rumors that this was going to be like a group stage. I still think that that's where they're heading. I feel like that is like the next logical step is like, Apple wants more games. I understand that's the driving force behind that. And I think people don't like it. I think at least it gives, you talk about Columbus. I mean, Columbus don't have any reason to complain. They had the home game first. They didn't play well. They played probably the worst game, but you had a chance to come back, show everybody why you are why you are one of the best teams in the league. And they didn't do it. They forced it to PKs. They put themselves at the mercy of penalties. And, they have really no one to blame but themselves. There was one team in that series that won the game in regulation, and that was the New York Red Bulls. And they won that first game at home. So I disagree that they had opportunity. They got a second chance. It's not the same. I did feel like too with the break that certain teams had between games, like particularly like if you're a higher seed, like, and then you got a break, you had to wait 3 weeks to play like your next game. That was almost like you saw guys get rusty. I feel like this gives you a little bit of momentum. So, we'll finish this best of three, and then, there'll be a break obviously for the international break. Then they'll come back, and then we get a real kind of like, we have the semifinals, the conference finals, and then the actual championship, all in a nice little run up. So I think that in of itself, I feel like that this sort of solves the issue before, where it just felt like the playoffs would just like lose steam, like especially when they hit up on the international break. So that's my thoughts. I know the format's a little funky. I know it's against sort of the, against the, how soccer's run. And I've never wanted that to be. I always feel like everybody's like, oh, well, this is not how other leagues do it. I'm like, who cares? Let's do what makes sense. Let's do what's fun.
The big problem is the 3-week gap between that some teams are facing in between. Like the Galaxy had 22 days between their next. The Red Bulls have a similarly long wait heading up to them. So that's the only downside of this structure, I think.
Yeah, but that's a victim. That's more of a victim of the fact they won, and they also have the
if it was one game, if it was 1 or 2 games, then it would never be 3 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know. There's certainly some ways to maybe get around it. I think other teams are going to be dealing with like a long layover as well. Like once the team, whomever advances out of these next rounds, they're still facing like a 2-week gap because they still have to wait. So there's still, there's not going to be like where one team literally played last Saturday. They're in a cadence. They're in a rhythm. Here comes the team that is like, had like a 3-week break, and then they have to they look very rusty to start that game, and it's a 1 week. I think all teams are going to be suffering a little bit of rust when they come back from the international break. So I don't know. I think that's a little overblown for me considering. So, and I think, would you rather be the LA Galaxy right now, or would you rather be Inter Miami or, LAFC, Vancouver, Cincinnati, NYC? You would rather be the team that's currently sitting, advanced out of the group, and did it very effectively. They were probably the one team that really just put the sword to and took care of business. I think they were, I think I have this right. They're the only team that managed to advance fully from 2 regulation wins. Every other team either needed penalties for help for one of their games. So
poor Ben Olsen out of the playoffs. And last year were they in the final or the Western Conference final last year?
I think the Western Conference final.
Yeah, I think that's right too. They lost LAFC. So, it's getting worse for him. But still
an unraveling, man.
I know.
Hector Herrera, like your long time, like did the Ted Lasso show in like the 3rd season when they're like trying to like rile up the team, and then they show the picture of Nate like ripping up the believe sign, and everybody gets really furious, and they go out and think, oh yeah, they got them, they're all energized, and then they go in and they just like completely like lose the plot. That's what this game felt like. It was Coco Carrasquilla, Hector Herrera, both just like losing the plot and like what they needed to do. Like Hector Herrera, like leaning back, spitting down at the referee in the age of VAR. Dumb decision. They still managed to get it to PKs. So fast. Yeah, that was like a 5-second review and you're done. And Coco Carrasquilla again, like the hands to the throat, just like unraveling at the absolute worst time, and it cost them potentially a chance to advance because this is not a good Seattle team, and Seattle still needed PKs. Like they were up a man through very large portions of the series, and they still. I believe the last game was a PK win as well, right? Am I right about that?
Yes.
I think so.
Kim says it's not the structure that gives the ridiculous breaks. It's playing on Tuesdays, etc., and the random scheduling. Good point. Yeah. Yes, that I think is my only criticism is you would not have any way of figuring out when these games are going to be.
Yeah.
If it's not your team, you're like, I don't know. It could be any day.
And I think some people have said, well, this, gives me an opportunity to like actually watch other teams play because of how the structure of the league is set and how the games are all at the same time, that, it's harder to pay attention. My argument would be, well, there's a way you can accomplish that as well, as you can stagger out your Saturdays, 12, 3, 4, 5, and then your Sunday. Yep. Then you do the second leg you can do on a Saturday. I also think it hurts attendance too. I think it hurts attendance in some of these places that they're having to like go. I know it's a playoff game, so it's pretty easy to sell tickets, but it's like trying to sell tickets for a game on a Monday evening is a tough thing to do.
It's also a big strike against Apple TV because the playoffs exist in this very narrow space. Whereas if the games were spread out on linear TV, you'd have more advertisements between other sports. You'd have more. It would break containment a little bit more than it's doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, the games still are on FS1. I think I watched the first leg of Columbus versus NYCFC, and I was able to. I think I was at the gym and just.
Are all of them on, or just random ones?
Random ones. I don't think it's all of them. I think it's certain ones are going to get the FS1 treatment. You just have to kind of look at where it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I will agree with that. I think the scheduling it should be like a Saturday, Sunday. Look at how like the NHL first round of the NHL playoffs, like all the games, they have like a Saturday where it's just like wall to wall, soccer or wall to wall hockey. It's like playoff game all the way through the night. Sunday they do the same thing. It's like a crazy thing to witness. If you're a hockey fan, you get to watch all these games that like really matter, and like playoff hockey is really intense. And I feel like while it does give you an opportunity to watch the games, there's ways you could accomplish that within one and give it a cadence and give it a rhythm. You could have played Saturday and then the second leg Saturday and then have a quick Wednesday and then maybe sneak in another game on Saturday, and then you're setting up your conference finals being when you come back from the international break, leading into your championship game. So could have been ways to schedule it. Could have been ways around it. Who knows? Maybe 2025 will be the last year we have to talk about that, because then we will be moving to the European calendar. So
that's right. Maybe so.
Yes. All right. What? Anything else you want to break down about?
I think let's wrap it up.
Yeah, man. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening again. Patreon.com/RFK Refugees. We'll have plenty of MLS offseason content coming up. We'll also, of course,
read about Ted's article.
Yes. Read my article. I don't think I set a dollar limit on that. So I think if you literally could just donate $1 and you can read it. So
there you go.
Check it out. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Vamos.